As women, our body needs to feel safe. And we only do that when we're surrounded by other women that help us feel connected and nurtured. Now, for me, that also comes down to the way that we breathe. And our breathing is connected to our emotions, to our physical body, to the way we think. And in so many ways, it's a big part of how we show up in the world. Now, as we emerge from isolation, one of the biggest things we need to do is to look after ourselves. Most of us are unaware of how we're both breathing. And I know that we're all breathing right now, but the way that we breathe can be an indicator for being stuck in a state of stress. And this is not good for us as women. This is not good. And it takes a toll on our nervous system. It takes a toll on our sleep. And it really takes a toll on our relationships. That's one of the biggest ones for me. And yes, I know that you're breathing, but there are ways that we can do it to actually make our body feel safe. When we don't feel safe, we start to breathe with our upper chest muscles, our neck muscles, and our body goes into this tense mode. And we don't know how that we're actually being stuck that way. And that then it comes across to people around us. So they don't feel relaxed, they don't feel safe. And it impacts all our conversations, our relationships, and has a huge knock-on to effect to actually how we feel. So for me, breathing is actually all about self-care and looking after ourselves in the first place. As women, I don't think we're always very good at doing that. We often put everybody else first. We put our family, our friends, our children, and actually really what's so important is to put our own oxygen mask on first, our own body awareness and self-care. If we don't, then in the end, it's going to have a huge knock-on effect to everybody else around you. And for me, that was a deal breaker. If I didn't look after myself, it was going to make a big difference to everybody else. So breathing is the process of actually getting oxygen in and breathing carbon dioxide out. And while that is simple and we do it all the time, if we don't get that balance right in our chemistry, it ends up shifting our muscles into being more of a tense mode. It changes our blood chemistry to being more basic, and it changes the blood flow around our fingers. So you can get symptoms like cold fingers and toes. You can have changes to the blood flow in the brain, makes your brain feel foggy. And it has a huge knock-on effect to our gut health as well. If we're not breathing in the right way that is calm and relaxed, it changes so many parts of our body. And that's because it all links into our survival response, which is why, again, safety is really important. If we don't feel safe in our communities and our families, then our brain, which has this deep down fear center, our amygdala, it gets hijacked. And when it gets hijacked, it starts to send messages down the body, down to our back, where we have these little wee triangles above our kidneys called our adrenal glands. And this is where our body is going to release our stress hormones into our blood. And they release cortisol and adrenaline, which are our main stress hormones. And what that does, because it's going in the blood, it goes all the way around the body. And that is why so many parts of our body are being hijacked into that stress mode. So ideal is to breathe through your nose. It seems really simple, but if you've had injuries to your nose, if you've got allergies, then it can make it harder to breathe through the nose. And the nose is best most of the time. It is a filter, it humidifies, it warms the air, and makes it easier for you to work to breathe into your belly. If you try it now at home, take a breath in through your mouth. Notice how your shoulders probably rise up, and then breathe out the mouth, drop it down, then breathe in your nose. Notice how it's slower and easier to get the air in. That in the first place, if you've been stuck in a mouth breathing pattern, can help to train you to slow the body down and to make it calmer in just a few moments. So nose is king and belly is queen. So learn to breathe. I'll show you down here. It's hard always the first time, but breathing all the way around into your belly and into your back, not just in the front, but here, which is often taught with breathing. And not too much into the chest, because the chest isn't meant to be used for breathing all the time. This is our emergency, our backup breathing, when you're stressed or when you're exercising at high levels. But most of the time, to keep our body feeling safe, we should be actually breathing down here nice and low and slow. So there's a few things: nose king, belly queen, and the rate and rhythm. If you take one thing away from today, just one thing, if you learn to exhale for longer, take a long breath out now. That is the best way of putting the brake pedal on your nervous system. It tells the body that it is safe, and it allows it to let the air out of that chest and deflate instead of staying stuck in this hyperinflated mode or freeze mode, which is really common when we're getting stuck in that stress state. So learning to deflate the shoulders, even at the mouth just once. I know I said nose is best, but actually just the breath out the mouth just once can open the valve of your vocal cords and allow you to drop down. And this is so important for women as well, because our pelvic floor is the bottom of our core, and our diaphragm and our vocal cords are the roof. So we have this beautiful cylinder through here that needs to be worked in the right way. And if we're gripping and holding around our muscles, around our shoulders and our belly, then we actually put more pressure down our pelvic floor. And if you've had babies, if you've gone through menopause, that area gets really impacted. And if there's been any abuse, all those things can actually cause changes and trauma in that area. And the first step to change that with your pelvic floor and all the energy through your core is to learn to slow that breathing down into the belly. And it's a small thing, and I know you're probably doing breathing all the time, but if you're breathing in an altered way that keeps you in a stress state, then you don't even realize that you could actually change it. And that's what I want to highlight to you today. And it can be as simple as taking a few breaths in through the day as you slow down, as you hug somebody, as you go to sleep at night. But the more aware you get of it, the more that you're slowing down the volume of stress and the impact it has on your body. If you know you're going into a stressful situation, one of my favorite things that you can do is that little deflating breathing exercise. That little breath out the mouth, just once, and that drops the chest down. If you go into that stressful situation, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a difficult conversation, and you're in that inflated position, the emotions can become overwhelming and it feels so much harder to ground yourself. So the more that I get you to deflate that chest and then go back to that belly breathing and reset, the easier it will be to have those tough conversations or those difficult moments. If you don't take a moment to pause and to slow your body down and to breathe, what will happen is you'll stay stuck in that flight and fight or freeze mode, that stress and survival mode. And that is going to keep flooding your nervous system with the stress hormones. It's going to make your muscles tighten up, and it's going to make your body language actually change. And that's really important because we actually have this thing in our brain called our mirror neurons. And our mirror neurons mean that we're copying the pattern of people around us. So if I'm seeing somebody sitting in front of me like this, then we start to copy it. Or if we see someone crossing over, our body protecting. Or if they're holding the shoulders and protecting with their breathing. So the more that you learn to slow your own breathing and change your posture and body language, that'll impact the people around you as they start to copy and mirror that. So it's actually a really good way of almost dissolving a situation when you are feeling tense. If you can change your body language and fake it till you make it, because we don't always feel like we are happy and calm and relaxed, but if we can fake it till we make it with our breathing and our body language, then it will change people's perceptions of us. And that's really powerful because that then comes into more reality for us and shifts us out of that survival mode into this rest, digest, and recover, but also connection. So it's much harder to form deeper connections and relationships when we are in a state of stress. It just doesn't happen easily. And it's actually hard to hear what is going on in someone's life, to hold space for that, and to build a deeper connection. So it's really important for us in all aspects of our lives, not just at work, but actually for me, it's about relationships. When I was going through a divorce with my now very amicable ex-husband, but at the time it was super stressful and hard not to lose my emotions at him when I was frustrated and sad. And so I had to really, really work when we're having those difficult conversations, and I just wanted to get it out of my body, but to slow my body down and to breathe through it. And it was one of those things that allowed me to then be kind in the moment and then process it afterwards, because sometimes it wasn't always good just to yell and scream at that person. It's never going to win in that sense. So for me, I was very aware of how much my body would hold, and actually in those moments it would be the breath hold. It was very much this, and I'd get through it, and then I'd go afterwards like, oh, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I'm fatigued, because I hadn't looked after myself in that moment. I hadn't been true to myself. And that if your body's been stuck in a breathing state that has been more stressed for a long time, it's going to take a while. Not just because the body's stuck in that sense, but because in our arteries and our neck and in our our brain, our amygdala, we've actually altered our receptors, our carbon dioxide receptors. It gets a bit geeky, but the thing with that is so important is if you learn to change your body over time, then you set a new threshold of what it can cope with. And that's how you get more resiliency, particularly when you're being through times of trauma and stress. You actually have to learn to build that back up again. And that's about the self-care and the recovery, because you can't just go from survival mode into thriving mode within a week. You need to actually really nourish and nurture your body. And especially as women, our hormones need that, our nervous system needs that. And for us to be able to feel safe, it can take a time to unwind those patterns that have been stuck there.